And good morning, everyone. It's Pete here from Toolkit TV. And tell you what, I mean, it's a bit of a chilly day here in Essex, but the sun's out, and I love it. I don't mind that. Recently, I was attended the Pain Cloud convention up in Sunderland, and I met a nice physio up there called Felicity Thow. Apologies if I got it wrong. Thow, sorry, Thow. That's a good start, isn't it? I'll tell you what, rather than me tell the viewers who you are, you tell them. So hand over to you, Felicity. So who you are and what you do.
Cheers, Pete. So I'm Felicity and I'm a physio up here in Newcastle. I think it's cold down south. It's absolutely bitter today up here. And I qualified almost 10 years ago from Nottingham, and I've done a bit of work. I did some NHS rotations for 3 years. Spent 3 years in New Zealand working entirely in MSK, and then I've moved home and I've set up my own practice up here in Newcastle. So FT Physio, you can see behind me. And yeah, like Pete says, we met at the Pain Cloud conference up in Sunderland. So yeah, we thought we'd do this chat today.
Well, I'll tell you, and that's one of the reasons why I'm actually, I thought it'd be a good idea to interview, because when I was talking to you, there's something, I don't know, I think there was, for me, it was something about you that you seemed like have an engaging sort of way of talking about physiotherapy and pain management, etc. And I thought, you know, I said to myself, right there and then, I've got to get this young lady on Pain Toolkit TV so she can just ask her some general questions about whatnot about pain management. But just before we get cracking, what did you think to the Pain Cloud convention?
I enjoyed it. I went to the first. It wasn't the first one, but the first one I went to was the one in Oslo in the spring, and it's great. It's a great format. I like how it's a very open format. There's loads of opportunity to ask questions. Even the speakers as well are encouraging questions. They're saying, "Don't take my word for it. Read this, read that." And I'm doing a master's in pain management at the minute, so it's absolutely right up my street to be able to discuss it with the experts and to. I mean, you come away with reams of notes. I was live tweeting. I got so much out of it. So much out of it for Twitter. Yeah, it was brilliant.
So it's. I mean, I enjoy it. It's the first time I've attended one, and I enjoy meeting everybody there. And I think once again, it's where healthcare professionals inviting people like myself along. I know. I think in the spring you probably met Jo Belton from Colorado. She's a buddy of mine now, and I know from talking to other healthcare professionals, she went down a storm now. Yeah. So. Anyway, Pain Cloud was great. I loved it, etc. And I like being in the northeast. So I always find you guys up there very, very friendly. So I find that quite welcoming, being an Essex dude, But so your physio up there, and it's been I didn't know you was working in New Zealand, and I know I've never met him actually. I know him from social media. A guy called Paul Luggerman, who's over in New Zealand. I know he's a Scottish fella who's quite active over there in New Zealand. So, what was your experience working in New Zealand? What was the difference between physiotherapy and pain management in New Zealand compared to what we do here in the UK?
Over here it is quite different, and I went from being a rotational physio to being entirely MSK, so it was a huge jump. And I kind of joke that I went out there to make all my mistakes, as you do as a junior clinician, very far away from home. But I found that. So in New Zealand, they have an ACC system, so a state-run insurance system, and you're allocated, I think it's up to say like 12 or 16 treatments. And there does seem to be a lot of onus in New Zealand on the kind of manual therapy hands-on treatment, which certainly has its place. But what I did think about New Zealand, I think as a culture, they're a very active population. They're out at weekends doing hikes. Everyone wears their trainers to work so they can walk home. The families are very active, and I think it's different, especially in the northeast population. We have a huge obesity problem, and so I think there's a difference in goals, perhaps, from in Kiwis. But I certainly got very good at my superficial rugby chat. I know nothing about rugby, but I could get by at a very superficial level.
Yeah.
That was a learning curve for me.
And it's funny, that's what I noticed when I was in the North East, because I kept asking people, you know, are you a football person, like the taxi drivers? And
Yeah,
really, they was all into rugby, like. But
because it was Sunderland.
yeah, this was in Sunderland, like, yeah. So I didn't really, but so it was anyway, whatever.
You should come to Newcastle. We're football fans here.
So let's go back to the people that you see in your practice. So they come to you with some sort of musculoskeletal problem, persistent pain problem. What point would you talk to them about how you can manage your pain? Would you do that at the beginning, like most other healthcare professionals now?
Yeah, I suppose. I think everyone's a bit different, aren't they? And I think self-management is something you have to sometimes sell, because people are sometimes coming to you with an expectation of being fixed, and that the word, I hate saying it, I doesn't feel comfortable at all with me that I'm fixing people, because I'm not. But I think that people have that expectation, and they've maybe been around the merry-go-round of people trying to be fixed. And I think sometimes when people come and see you in a private setting, it's because their pain isn't going away. I see some acute injuries, but you tend not to see them for very long. You might see them two times and then they're discharged, they're better. But with persistent pain, people tend to come to you, you're not the first person they've ever seen. So self-management, ideally, yes, we want to talk about it early, and I think planting the seed early is key. But it's certainly something that you have to work people around to sometimes, or sell, or kind of reassure them that actually self-management isn't just fobbing somebody off and saying that this is what it is. See ya, now you go and deal with it. I think there's a coaching role that physios have.
I think as well, from I suppose myself really, and a lot of other people I speak to and via email, telephone and whatnot, is that there's expectation. What are you going to do to me? I mean, I was massively thinking like that. Well, what are you going to do to fix my problem? And at the end of the day, as I learned, when you've got persistent pain for a long period of time, it's not what other people are going to do. It's what the hell am I going to do for myself, really? So when someone comes to you and says, "Oh, well, right, Felicity, I've come to, I've got this really bad back problem and knee problem. So what are you going to do for me?" So what would you say to a typical person like that?
And there's certainly a pressure as a private clinician. You're thinking, gosh, this person's coming for a 45-minute assessment and they're paying me £40 for it. And they expect they want something palpable almost to take away. This is what she did. And sometimes the education side, you think, what I really love is when you haven't actually done a lot of kind of, like I say, palpable, hands-on stuff, but somebody leaves and goes, I feel much better. So I think my role is hugely in reassurance and education. I would love to do, in my master's, I was looking for if there's any research in reassurance as a treatment, because I think it's so powerful. There isn't, as it happens, but what am I going to do to them? Not a lot. I certainly use manual therapy, and I use it I sell it as this is temporarily perhaps going to make things feel a bit better. I think it's certainly a time where you can build rapport with people, but this is not the fix. This is not I'm not doing anything spectacular here. This is not something that's permanently going to change your back, for instance. But I think when people then stand up and go, oh, that does feel a bit better, you can say, well, I haven't done anything drastic there. I've not done anything permanent. This is really reassuring. This tells me you could go away and learn how to do X, Y, and Z to feel better like this.
I was watching some social media last night, and one of your colleagues was saying about he did one of these Facebook Live things. Chap called Adam, and another gooner actually. So, but he's quite, I suppose, quite. So what he was saying in the video, and I agree with him a lot, is that that I've been watching it on social media that physios or healthcare, about this thing about exercise. To me, I'm old school. To me, you've got to exercise, you've got to stretch and exercise. If a cat and dog's going to do it, what the hell are they doing it for? What all animals stretching and exercising for?
Yeah.
But for us guys, it's like we've got to be sent somewhere to someone like yourself to learn how to stretch and exercise. And I think it's a bit bonkers, like, you know, but I was like that. I had to be sent somewhere to, you know, learn to do stretch and exercising properly, I guess. But what I'm listening to is they're saying, well, it's not about asking a person about, well, if they don't like exercising, what activity could they do that they would enjoy, you know?
Mm.
And okay, there's that activity, but for me, I don't know. So I'm probably maybe speaking out so now, or just old school. I don't know, but to me, is you've got to stretch your bits and bobs, you know, your tendons and your ligaments and whatnot. You've got to tone up your muscles and what, you know, so that they're doing their job for you, like, you know, getting you around. So I can see where perhaps we're doing some sort of activity to get people active. But at the end of the day, you've got to do some sort of stretch and exercise. You know, I mean, if I'm speaking out of turn, tell me. You know.
No, I think movement is certainly key, and there is that the CSP love activity, hate exercise, and you know, my last assignment in my masters was looking at is paced activity better than just general exercise, and there didn't seem to be any difference. It just seems to be that any kind of movement is good for us.
Yeah.
And I think there's two strands in physio, and I think that's sometimes where it gets difficult for clinicians. Is one is we're managing pain, and we're managing helping people to manage pain, individual human beings, and they all have their own interests and thoughts on exercise. And somebody might love doing, you know, going to the gym and doing squats, whereas another person, you might sell it as a, you know, sit to stand because they sort of play with their grandchildren getting up and down off the floor. Some people might hate doing sit to stand exercises and prefer to go out on a brisk walk around the block, and I'm fine with that if that gets them moving, and we know that movement is just generally good for loads of stuff. And then you've got the other strand, which is make every contact count. And then you've got this other responsibility of not just, because sometimes my advice to someone with loads of low back pain is, especially when they're really worried about it, is go and do something this weekend that makes you feel like you. Go and do something that makes you feel like yourself, because there's nothing like being in pain and being isolated. It's a hugely common feeling. To stop you doing the things that you really enjoy doing. I don't mind if that's having a cup of tea, or you know reading your favorite book or watching your favorite film. I think just make it feel like yourself. Is that making every contact count and helping this person potentially lose weight or stop smoking? Probably not. And I think we've also got to be mindful that we do need to advise people on exerting themselves, and you know, if they are overweight, then giving them advice on actual exercise that's going to help them lose weight, which is maybe not just tidying the house once a week. But, you know, that's possibly not going to expend the amount of calories that they need to. But I think that's a real puts clinicians in a difficult position, and I think it's a tough one to balance. You're treating an individual, and we also have this societal kind of responsibility as well.
So yeah, I haven't taken any pain medication since '97.
Yeah.
I don't call that. That's not like, you know, someone hasn't come down, struck me on the head, and you know, you don't need to take any more meds.
Yeah.
For me, exercise, daily stretching exercise, it means I don't have to take any pain meds.
Yep.
Still have pain, but my pain levels are at a level that they don't interrupt me, they don't bother me, sort of thing. And when people see me, well, you sure you got pain? Because I walk around too natural. I'm not spooked over or holding on to things and whatnot. I think in the early days, when I recall back to me, when people started saying, well, we need to stretch and exercise, I think, bloody hell, mate, yeah. But the reason why I sort of bugged it, because I remember that when I was physios back in the day, this was back in the early 90s, so I wanted to do 10 of these, 15 of them, 10 of them. But it wasn't paced up. They didn't talk about, well, start off slow. That's where we want to be.
Yeah.
So start off gradually. It was like 10, or 15 or whatever. And you get up to 5 or 6 and you think, crap, I need this like another pair of ear rolls, you know, because the pain levels shoot up. I think, this can't be right. This can't be doing me any good, like, you know. So I think it's a little bit of a fear, really. I know it's moved on a lot now. But I think that there's that fear still with people that when you do start to stretch and exercise, you're going to get a little bit of discomfort. And I always explain it in a way that if you haven't opened up a door for a number of weeks, months, or possibly years, it's going to creak a little bit. And it's like your joints in your body, really, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's absolutely key, isn't it? It's the fear, that's the often the driver. And I think you sometimes what I say to people is, rather than give them numbers of things to do this until you can't do any more from a fatigue point of view. I don't necessarily want you to be in absolute agony doing this exercise, because it's not going to be much fun. But do this to a point where you feel like you're tired, like you know that muscle fatigue sense. And I suppose if you get to pain first, it's go to a tolerable level of pain and reassurance that that's not you doing any damage to your back. That's not a sign that this is a harmful activity. I think it certainly goes hand in hand, doesn't it? It's that reassurance is really key.
I think I think what pain is very good at is it sort of strips people naked of confidence.
Yeah.
You've gone from that can-do person to a can't-do person, and you look at your can-do list, your can't-do list. Your can't-do list is massive, where your can-do list is very, very short.
Yeah.
So so we're coming up to Christmas, and this is just sort of been posting a video I made a couple of years ago, one of my whiteboard videos, and Christmas can be a very demanding time. Well, it's a demanding time for people who haven't got pain, but I think for people with pain, it can be it sort of seems, oh my God, what have I got to do? I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to go around to there. We sort of become the overdoers.
Yeah.
So what would be your a take-home message to those people who are thinking, holy crap, how the hell do I do Christmas with all this pain stuff as well? What would be your message for them?
Absolutely. And I think it's about reassuring people that actually it is okay to take some time. And you're absolutely right, Christmas is madcap throughout, isn't it, for everyone? And I think sometimes sometimes I'd like to say to people that actually that feeling of pressure that you almost have on yourself, I need to do this, I need to do that, can contribute to the pain. It can contribute to the feeling of that expectation. And I think sometimes I read people like Brené Brown and reading about shame and vulnerability, and people carry that around with them. I'm a terrible parent because I can't do X, Y, and Z, and that certainly doesn't help them feel like themselves. And I think that's the big underlying thing that I think with pain is it you're right, it takes away your cans, it takes away what you can do, and I think it takes away bits of a part of people as well. It takes away how their self-esteem and their identity sometimes. So I think I like to kind of visit that a little bit, and almost say to them, like, your homework is not to go and do a million squats. It's maybe just to go and have some relaxing time, go and spend some time with your family, take some of that pressure off you, because I think as physios sometimes we put that pressure on people as well. We've why haven't you done this, why haven't you done that? And I think it's much more interesting to me to look at the person than to kind of scrutinize what they're not doing, if that makes sense.
And I just thought now, about asking the people, what do they, instead of you think about, well, what do I need to give them? It's ask them, what do they actually want to achieve? What's their goals? Because that's why I say to people, they sort of tell me their stuff and whatnot, and I say, yeah, that's okay, fine, yeah, but what is your action plan? What's your goal? What do you want to get back to? How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's there. I think like what we do is the sort of pain in our life revolves around that.
Yeah.
And we don't look outwards and say, right, well, I've got this, but where do I move on from here, sort of thing,
Yeah.
So it's about setting goals and action plans and having a setback plan, like the general sort of stuff that we learn about in self-management.
Definitely, and it comes from the person, as you say. Sometimes I think when I discharge someone, you'll relook at their range of movement and it's not changed, and you think, oh, they're still getting a bit of pain after they've done this activity, and you think, oh, they're have they improved? And they're thrilled with where they are, because they can play with their grandchildren again, or they went to the supermarket, and they're telling you they're ready to be discharged, they're ready to self-manage. and I think, you know, as physios, sometimes we can be perfectionists and, oh, but you still haven't got that range of movement. And I think the more you practice physio, the less you worry about that, and the more you think, well, great, they're now leading this, they're doing what they want to do. And you're right, it's about what an individual wants to do.
I'm going to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
I know you're very busy today, etc. And what's right? So we've got Christmas, and we've got the New Year, and us guys, us people down a gym, right? We were like the everyday sort of bods down there. We see them every year, every January. We see newbies, you know.
Yeah.
And I always say to my buddies down there, we should run a book. How long they're going to last. And you see them on the old hamster wheel, they're like this, you know, or they're on the cross trainer like this.
Yeah,
mate, you just, you know, and you can see they've not. This is the first time they've been doing some sort of activity for months or possibly years, and you're thinking, mate, you'll be here a week, 2 weeks, and that's it. You're gone.
Yeah.
So, what would be so someone who's considering, okay, well, I want to get Christmas out of the way, then I want to really get down to a gym or get more active. What would be your 3 major tips so that they not only start to stretch and exercise or get activity, but more important, how will they keep it going?
Good. I'd almost say, do not join the gym on the 1st of January. I'd almost say, use January as almost just like a time to gradually think of January as the warm up, you know. I think let's think about spring for being, you know, hitting the weights. If they've never done exercise before, maybe use January to instead of, you know, I want to be doing this by the end of January, walking 3 times a week, or taking the stairs every time instead of the lift, or going out on your bike once a week. Something that means something to them, and also just gets them active and just gets their body moving in any way. Because you're absolutely right. Yeah, January is an awful time to be in the gym, and I think there's this pressure that January the 1st we're all going to be new people. We all do it, you know, and it because it's just such an arbitrary date as well, and we all just peter out together. So I would say, yeah, number 1, put the date to one side and take out time in your mind. It takes as long as it takes to get fit. So I'd say start to get active by doing something you enjoy doing. And if it's not the gym, then don't use the gym. You know, I think gyms are great because there's heavy stuff lives there, and often to get strong you need to be doing heavy stuff. But I'd say save the heavy stuff for when you're that bit more active. Second tip would probably be to ignore the advice of everybody else around you doing the January thing, because again it's that pressure, and nobody's ever an expert as well, are they? They're oh, you should try this, you should do this, but they're never actually experts who are telling you that. And thirdly, I remember I did a podcast with Jason Silvernail. I remember him saying goals are much better when they're activity based rather than outcome based. So instead of saying I want to be able to lift 100 kilos by next December, say, you know, I just want to go to the gym 3 times a week, and sometimes that's enough of a goal, sometimes that's hard enough to do. So actually having your activity as the goal rather than the outcome of what you want, because the outcome comes when you do the activity. So I think that's much better advice.
Do you know what, Felicity? I'll tell you, I love that. I love the first one, because that, you know, to me it makes so much sense, you know, because with that pressure on it, yeah, well, coming to the end of the year, oh, I felt a bit overweight, or, you know, I've been listening to Peter Moore and he keeps going on about exercise. I'm going to join a gym, you know, and then, you know, it's really fabulous advice. Do nothing. Actually, do it afterwards, because you've got the adverts coming up with special offers for this, that, and the other.
I was going to say, I'm not going to make any friends in gyms, but
I mean, I didn't when I finished the pain management program. I didn't go to a gym. I got sort of persuaded, talked into by a young lady I was living with at the time, and I thought, I'll join it to keep her happy, really.
Yeah.
And but you know what I found out, as soon as I joined it, although I was doing exercises at home and whatnot, I think I'd outlived them. I needed something a bit more. I didn't find it naturally doing a cross train. I would have been on one of them in bloody life, But it just seemed that once I did join, I started sort of pacing it up. That the pain levels dropped off even more, So to me, I thought, oh, sort that enough. And you start meeting people down there and making friends and whatnot. So I pretty much stuck at it,
Absolutely, the social thing is key, isn't it? I think when
Yeah.
people with pain stop going to their group exercise classes, that makes me sad, because I'm like, no, people often really miss it because their friends are there.
I can't think of that. There's I know Mandy Wilson. She's a pain nurse up in. I think she's a Sunderland supporter, but I think she works in Gateshead at the hospital. Sorry about that. But she's always posting stuff on Twitter about there's some sort of class up there, Life. I think is it called Life something, where people go there and there's sort of dancing and stuff like that, And I looked at it last week, and there was I think they posted something where people were getting up, and I thought, I tweeted about it. I said, "Hey, that's interesting, like synchronised standing." And apparently, they call it the Mexican stand-up or something like a Mexican way sort of thing,
Brilliant.
But to me, all that sort of stuff, groupie stuff, and don't forget we've got our old friends there on NHS Choices. They've got their fitness gym on there, which they got videos there, like for if you want to learn yoga, tai chi, Pilates. They've got beginners class, intermediate, and a little bit more progressive sort of stuff. So if you're not a gymmy sort of person, or health club, whatever, there are these things on the internet on NHS Choices that you can go and join. It's free. Yeah. So there's lots of stuff out there. I think it's just a matter of putting the effort in.
Definitely.
Listen, I think we've had enough today, but I've got this feeling I think we need to do another one of these in the new year, because I think, what you've said there today has made me sort of do a bit more thinking. I think we need to revisit things to see how things are moving on, because I think, especially in physio land and whatnot, it seems to be moving quite quickly at the moment.
Yeah.
So can we organise later on when we stop recording? Perhaps we can organise another date.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Every time, something like that, and just do a bit of recapping and stuff like that. I've got, as I say, got a nice way about you, and I think you've got some really fantastic messages there for people who come and watch and listen to Pain Toolkit TV. So
appreciate it.
I wish you and your family season's greetings. Have a fabulous time, I think, whatever you're up to, and I'll catch up with you in the new year.
Will do. Thanks, Pete.
Take care. Have a great day.
You too. Cheers.
Cheers now.